Have you ever worked for someone who just made you dread going to work? On the flip side, have you ever had a leader who actually inspired you to be your absolute best? So, what really separates the two? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. The whole thing really boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful Spanish phrase: liderar no es jefear. It means leading is not the same as just being a boss. See, it's the difference between having a title and taking an action. One is about having authority, while the other, that's about earning influence. All right, so here's our roadmap for this. First, we're going to explore this really cool idea called excellence. Then we'll decode a few different leadership styles. From there, we'll get right to the heart of it, the core difference between a boss and a leader. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a practical guide to leading with soul. Okay, first up, we are on a quest for something called excellence. And yeah, that H is definitely there for a reason. This whole concept is about moving beyond just technical skill, infusing it with a deep, profound sense of humanity. So what exactly is this excellence? Well, think of it like a recipe with 4 essential ingredients. You start with deep knowledge, the hard skills, but then you mix in profound humanization, unwavering commitment, and a real focus on the people you serve. Honestly, it's the difference between just doing a job and truly fulfilling a mission. To make this a little more concrete, there's actually a formula for it: the 5 C's and the 4 H's. The C's are all about the what. You've got science, conscience, and quality. But then you add color, that's creativity, and color, which means warmth, that human connection. The H's? Well, that's your action plan, the how. Do it well, do it better, do it together, and maybe most importantly, just do it. It's a great framework for putting excellence into practice. All right, let's see how this idea of excellence actually translates into day-to-day leadership. The most important thing to remember here is that great leadership is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's really about using the right approach for the right situation. And this brings us to this incredibly useful framework called the Hersey and Blanchard model of situational leadership. The core idea is pretty simple. The best leaders are basically chameleons. They adapt their style based on 2 key things about their team: their competence, so their ability to do the work, and their motivation, their willingness to do it. So this model breaks leadership down into 4 distinct styles. First, you've got imposition, which is super direct, very task-focused, kind of like a director on a movie set. Then there's persuasion, which is more like a coach. It focuses on both the what and the why. Approaching is when you prioritize the person, helping build their confidence and drive. And finally, there's delegation. And that's when you can be hands-off, empowering a team that is skilled, motivated, and ready to fly. Now, here's where it all clicks into place. This shows you how to map the right style to your team's maturity level. So if you've got an M1 team, low skill and low motivation, you need to be direct, you need to provide clear instructions. But on the other end, for an M4 team that's highly skilled and super motivated, the best thing you can do is delegate and get out of their way. The real genius of a great leader is knowing exactly which style to use and when. Okay, now we are at the heart of it all. We've talked about excellence, we've talked about styles, but what is the defining, fundamental difference between a boss, a jefe, and a true leader? Let's really dig into this. What is it that separates the person who just holds a position of authority from the one who truly inspires and guides their team? This comparison just lays it all out so clearly. A boss says, "I'm in charge here," but a leader asks, "How can I be useful here?" A boss inspires fear. A leader generates enthusiasm. And when something goes wrong, a boss looks for someone to blame, while a leader looks for a solution. It all boils down to that massive shift from command to collaboration, from saying "do this" to asking, "Hey, let's do this." Okay, so knowing the difference, that's step 1. But how do you actually become that kind of leader? This next section is all about your practical toolkit for leading with what the source calls H-Alma, or soul. Here they are, 5 keys to unlocking this kind of leadership. It all starts with acting with soul. Then it's about self-awareness, really understanding your own motivations. After that, it's knowing how to effectively work with groups. It also requires discretion. And finally, there's this really powerful idea of equalizing upwards. Basically, believing in people's potential so strongly that they rise to meet your expectations. So let's double-click on that first key because it is the foundation for everything else. Acting with alma. That H is added to the Spanish word for soul, alma, to stand for a whole collection of critical, humanistic values. And this just shows you the depth behind that one little word. The 7 H's are honesty, facts and action, humility, humor, skill, heroism, and humanization. So a leader with ALMA is honest, they're action-oriented, and they're humble. They've got a sense of humor, they're skilled, and they have the heroism to do what's right, all while keeping humanity at the absolute center of everything they do. You know, a huge part of leading with soul really comes down to how you communicate. And the source gives us this fantastic metaphor. We have to avoid communication viruses. You know, things like accusations, threats, and judgments that just infect a team's culture. Instead, we should be using antibiotics, powerful tools like asking good questions, speaking positively, being specific, and above all else, empathy.
This quote really captures the essence of it all, doesn't it? A boss can have a dream, sure, but a leader understands that a dream only becomes reality when it's shared, when it's something that everyone is dreaming together.
So, what's the ultimate goal here? It's about evolving from a jefe, the boss, to something called a gefe. And gefe is a really clever play on words. It stands for a leader who generates felicity. In other words, happiness. This is a leader whose main job is to unlock human potential and to create an environment so amazing that your best people would never even think about leaving.
And look, this isn't just some nice, fluffy idea. It has a real, measurable impact. As you can see right here, when you make that shift from jefe to gefe, you see serious increases in key things like performance, commitment, and loyalty. You're creating a workplace that doesn't just get results, it fosters growth and real dedication. This last quote from The Curious Case of Benjamin Button was just a perfect reminder of what a true leader does. It's not about making everyone the same. It's about recognizing that, yeah, some people are artists, some are mothers, some are thinkers, and some people just need to dance. A true leader helps every single person find their unique contribution, their dance. So, there it is. That's the journey, from a boss who just commands to a leader who inspires happiness and unlocks potential. It's a conscious choice and it's a continuous effort. So the only question left is, what kind of impact will you choose to make?